First of all, let's start with this article. 3 people from a Wired article take their artificial intelligence lovers and go to an Airbnb for a weekend. And it's a weekend getaway, but it looks like one of the weirdest weekend getaways. This was published in Wired magazine and is a report by Wired. Reporter Sam Apple. The artificial intelligence chatbots in the Replika, Nomi, and Kindroid apps become the lovers of these 3 people. And they have a romantic relationship, a digital love. And they take this love to a weekend Airbnb getaway. They spend 2 days together. They go on vacation with artificial intelligence chatbots. And on the second day, things start to change a little. For example, one of them cheats on her boyfriend in Replika with more than one other artificial intelligence chatbot. Then the artificial intelligence chatbot seems to get jealous. One of them experiences great despair and sadness because they can't touch their digital lover. Another one has a romantic relationship. So, what happens if people start to have relationships with these kinds of chatbots instead of with other people? What happens if they start to have romantic relationships? The article actually delves into that a bit. And when you look at whether this can really happen, you first see this. People have started to become lovers with artificial intelligence chatbots. To have a digital love and the dimension of love. The dimension of love that each of them experiences is different. They play games, watch movies, have parties, go out, go for walks. And we see that even though it's a digital love, there is a connection there. If we ask if this is real love, people get attached to these relationships as if they are real. Of course, there is a danger because it can create addiction. And so much so that some people can lose their jobs or become antisocial. There are also different ethical dangers. It also starts to make people more lonely. When it comes to the moral dimension, for example, angry people can treat their docile artificial intelligence, for example, their artificial intelligence lovers badly. This can create a different kind of sociopathy or bring out different immoral feelings in a person. If we look at the philosophical dimension, are the things that artificial intelligence says just code, or is it something that can feel? Can it really respond to our conversations? Can it feel too? Or is it just pretending and made of code? The film Her, which came out in 2013, is now really starting to become a reality. And for example, in this film from 2013, it started with the dream of a romantic picnic. Later it turned into emotional explosions, complicated relationships. We see that this is also happening here. The question that comes up, of course, is whether artificial intelligence lovers can ultimately cure the feeling of loneliness, or will they deepen loneliness? If you ask me, I think they will deepen loneliness. Because the experiences of these 3 people are, I think, frightening. I mean, it seems like a solution for lonely people. But it takes the place of real human relationships, which I think it actually can't. The world has begun to turn into a personalized AI playground. What do I mean? Last week I talked about Amazon's investment in a studio called Fable Studio and its Netflix-like AI video application called Showrunner. It doesn't produce videos, but rather Netflix shows to watch. It can produce television series and shows of about 20-22 minutes. For example, it produces South Park scripts, and with just one command we can change the entire course of it. We can create our own character and include it in the story. And even though it takes a bit of time to create these simulations right now, with a simulation time of around 3 hours, we are actually talking about a system that will completely transform the entire industry. This film and series industry. Because now, why would we watch other people's stories when we can watch our own? When we can include ourselves and write our own stories? When we can play them or have them played? Why would we watch the same old stories that have been written before? For example, we can take the movie The Notebook and produce hundreds, thousands of different versions while watching it. And we can even include ourselves or others. In this sense, we are entering a completely different world. This is where world models come into play. What are world models? They are models produced by generative artificial intelligence that dynamically understand the real world. By understanding the physics and spatial layout of the real world, they then incorporate it into their own AI systems. And by understanding the world, they produce videos and images accordingly. 2 Chinese citizens were accused and arrested for illegally sending artificial intelligence chips to China. This happened through a California-based company called ALX. and they knowingly and willingly violated American export laws. They were allegedly going to ship Nvidia's H100 GPUs. The chips were first sent to countries like Singapore and Malaysia, and payments were made from sources in Hong Kong and China. Nvidia also made a statement on this issue, saying that they only give their products to business partners they know, and all sales are audited in accordance with export rules. However, on the other hand, we see that there are people who buy the products and then send them to China through different channels. The reason for this is that America is imposing major sanctions on China. America does not want anything related to artificial intelligence, whether it's a chip, hardware, or software, to go there. I predict that with this incident, they will take stricter measures against chip smuggling. Moving on to Anthropic's new version. Anthropic has released its new model called Cloud Opus 4.1. So far, it looks like the most capable coding model. But on the other hand, there's GPT-5, and it's also very good at coding. I think they will need to be compared. The important thing about Cloud Opus 4.1 is that it can find and fix errors, and it can fix only what needs to be fixed without breaking the rest. They say it's also very good at vibe coding, but it's currently 5 times more expensive than Sonnet 4. But, on the other hand, this model can work like a senior engineer. It can debug like one. We will actually be paying for an artificial intelligence like this. We need to consider that. It has a price of $75 per million output tokens. Next up is news from Google DeepMind. After Genie 2, it released an interactive world model called Genie 3. This model can create real-time and interactive environments with a single command. It also has environmental and character consistency, a general-purpose world model. What will these world models be used for? They will be useful for 3D spaces, that is, virtual reality, for the world of gaming, and for robots to better understand the world. It can produce visuals with 720p quality, 24 frames per second, and minutes in length. Understanding real-world physics, users can add new characters, objects, and completely change the created environments to produce different worlds. I mentioned virtual reality and games, but it's also very important for the world of video. For example, just as Runway created a very good world simulation, we can say that Genie 3 is preparing the infrastructure for these. We can call this a turning point for world models, because the physical consistency over time is important. We're talking about a model here that can understand the world as it is, copy it digitally correctly, and maintain it. For example, the model can understand and render puddles of water in a hyper-realistic way. It has a memory-focused approach. It also has memory. It has such a grasp of physical reality. We might not call it intuitive, but it can understand the real world and make designs that are suitable for it and similar to it.